moving on, okay, I hope you enjoyed the introduction to sports science for coaching. We're now going to look at, in this section, we're going to touch on sports psychology. Particularly, we're going to focus on the area of motivation in sport. So let's just go through the aims, please. We'll define motivation and its components. We'll also investigate the factors which affect motivation. We'll explore intrinsic and extrinsic factors. And we'll also investigate achievement motivation. Starting off straight away, a task for you, okay? Why do we participate in sport? And why do we withdraw from sport? Please take a few minutes to consider these questions, okay? Whether that's in your group or with your mentor, and we'll get back after that. Okay, I wonder how that went for you. I'm sure you've got some interesting answers. For myself, motivators for participation, okay? Some ideas I've come up with. Obviously fun. Enjoyment. If we get pleasure from something, there's psychological benefits as well. We feel good, okay? That has a great motivating factor on us getting involved with sport and continuing to play sport. Affiliation. Now that's about the social experience. That's about developing friendships, maybe a feeling of being part of a team or a particular group. Having significant people around you. That's very important too. Competence is another factor. Some people, depending on their personality, really enjoy a challenge, okay? Developing a new skill, improving ourselves, developing ourselves. So other factors, this is another factor, that it encourages motivation in sport, okay? If we consider fitness, improving and maintaining our health as a huge motivating factor for many people, as is weight loss or weight management. If we consider strength development, there's also an area there we should look at. And of course, in some cases, along with improving our strength and improving our fitness, we can actually improve our physical fitness. This can be incredibly motivating for people. Success, we shouldn't rule this one out. Some people, not all people, enjoy competition and personal accomplishment. That feeling of beating someone, of being the best, of doing well, okay, taking on people, links into challenge, I suppose. These motivators, they can change over time. In the 1980s, for example, there were a wide range of descriptive studies which emerged, which consistently found that across sport, culture, gender, education, and so on, sport and exercise science, there were 5 common motives for participation which existed. Fun. I've touched on these, okay? This consistently appears as the most important motive. However, younger children cite fun as the most important motive. It's 56% at that time. A far greater degree than any other age group, okay? Fitness, interestingly enough, that was commonly cited by adolescents. Competition was viewed to be more important as age increased, and more by males than females. Now it's important to remember that participants cite multiple motives for participation rather than one single reason in this case. Also, I'd be quite critical here, and I'd say if we were to track these motives across time, we'll see a change is more likely to have occurred. That's quite obvious, okay? Let's consider then some demotivators of participation. We could be looking at other interests. There could be a conflict in terms of alternative activities. You may find that children sign up for football, they come along for 6 months or so and really enjoy it. And then I've got an example of a young man I'm working with at the moment. He's gone missing a little bit from training sessions. Wonder where he was, you know. And I found out quite recently he's also a very good rugby player. And as well as coming along to football, he's been joining in rugby sessions. And he's actually been linked to an academy with rugby. So that's kind of taken his interest away from football at the moment. So he's not lost any motivation for sport as such. It's just his motivation has shifted from football to participating in rugby. A lack of improvement or a lack of progress in terms of skill development, that can be a demotivating factor for many people, okay? You can see that. You look at children, sometimes they get frustrated and so on if they can't improve in a way which they perceive they should be improving. a lack of fun, boredom, okay? I'm sure I don't need to explain this one to you. If children in particular are bored with an activity, they'll stop doing it. They will not come back next week. If you run a boring session, you've got 16 kids there on a Monday night, the next session is on a Wednesday, you may find you don't have the 16 when you come back on Wednesday night, okay? Time pressures. I'm thinking more for older people, yeah? Increased time can take up the time available for practice and for competition, and you also may feel tired from your daily tasks, perhaps going to work, looking after the kids and so on, and that can really be a demotivator in terms of participation. An interesting one that I'm sure you're aware of is excessive pressure from coaches, from parents, and even from peers in some cases, external influences. These demotivators, they can be temporary or they could be permanent. Can be, in some cases, at a particular level, a total rejection in terms of participation. So I've talked a little bit there about motivation and demotivating factors. What I'd like to do now is refer to some research, okay? It was performed in 1980. What happened there was that 7 19-year-old competitive swimmers were interviewed regarding the issue of demotivation. At that time, 48% stated that at some stage in the past they had wanted to quit. Okay, they wanted to quit competitive swimming. What they found, this research by McPherson, which was actually, as I said, delivered in 1980, they found some common reasons or demotivators in sport in 5 main areas. Some further research by Clinton Weiss in 1986 suggested that demotivation could possibly arise from a mismatch of individual motives within the climate created by the sport. The current participants were found to be more achievement orientated. So really they needed to win, they needed to achieve something, okay, in simple terms at this point. The past participants were more interested in fun and they were more socially orientated. The lack of fun and lack of social engagement perhaps was seen as a reason for withdrawal, okay? This is dependent upon age and skill level. Sport tends to be more fun and more social for the very young. Now, I'm generalising here quite a lot, okay? But just go with me on this one. As we get a little bit older, skills start to develop. Competition may become more important. Not for everybody, as I said, I am generalising, but in the majority, okay? At this time, you might anticipate that there would be some level of demotivation for certain individuals, okay? Maybe as a result of a lack of skill development or their actual motives not being reached, okay? They don't achieve what they want to achieve, and this could be demotivating for them. At this point, I'd like to provide some definitions, particularly in terms of motivation, okay? Got a great one here from Roberts in 1992. Motivation refers to those personality factors, social variables, and or cognitions that come into play when a person undertakes a task at which he or she is evaluated, enters into competition with others, or attempts to attain some standard of excellence. Another quote from Wan in 1997. Motivation is a process of arousal within an organism that helps to direct and sustain behaviour. Motivation can be intrinsic or extrinsic. And finally, quite a simple quote from Sage in 1977. And this one quite succinctly puts it as the direction and intensity of one's efforts. I like that quote. One, because it's very simple. Now, direction refers to whether an individual seeks out, approaches, or is attracted to certain situations. They might be challenges, for example. The intensity of effort refers to how much effort an individual puts into a particular situation. It's important to remember that direction and intensity of effort are closely related. I like to spend some time here as well doing what I call myth busting, okay? We often hear motivation and arousal linked together. Motivation is not arousal. Motivation is effort. You need to be more motivated. Now, I'm sure we've all heard that one, okay? These inspirational slogans, maybe they aren't that inspirational for everybody, they don't work for everyone. Telling someone to try harder is not motivational training. We can say that motivation is an innate quality. It's something that's already possessed within us. Telling someone that they need to be more motivated is not specific enough. Individuals need to know what you mean by this term as a coach. What are you relating to? More effort, persistency, not giving up, trying harder, and so on and so on. If we don't be specific, the athlete or the player will have to infer the meaning. They'll have to guess what it is in some cases. So you're telling me to work harder, to do more. Do you mean to be stronger in tackles? Do you want me to try and want to win the game more? What do you mean? That's what I'm feeling as a player, okay? Is it about the will to win? So we need to be specific. Personality is also important. How we interpret that need to be more motivated will be different from individual to individual. So someone who's quite pessimistic, has low self-esteem, for example, maybe low confidence levels, they may perceive that the coach doesn't think they have much ability. They're not competent. However, someone who's optimistic and has high levels of confidence, well, they may just see that increased effort and persistence as a task they need to achieve. I'd like to consider, a little bit more detail, the relationship between direction and effort. Players who seldom miss training or practice and always arrive early typically expend greater effort during participation. Again, I'm generalising, but think about that guy or that young girl who turns up, okay? They very rarely miss a session, okay? They're always there early, they're very keen, they want to help you set up the cones, they want to get involved. Think about the amount of effort they put into that session in comparison to the guy who perhaps turns up 1 in every 4 and sometimes turns up late. Maybe you know somebody like that. I certainly do. We could say perhaps that the opposite is usually true for those who turn up late and miss training regularly. They may not exhibit the same level of direction and effort as their keener teammates. Got a task for you, another task. So I'm talking a lot now about motivation. Well, why is it important in sport? Why is it important we understand motivation? Take a few minutes to come up with some ideas for yourselves. We hear this a lot in the media, don't we? Motivation in sport is very, very important. Why? As I said, discuss with your friends, discuss with people at the club. If you're on your own, that's fine. Maybe do a little bit of research. Certainly take 10 to 15 minutes and get back to me when you're ready.